Rocking the portal.
Probably come out the other end.
Oh shoot! All right, okay, we're running.
We're live. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Lunch Brunch at the Spiritual Neighborhood. The Spiritual Neighborhood is a grassroots community project of the Council of Families for Children, dedicated to the quality of life for the body, mind, and spirit, and for the integration of a happy, healthy human. And welcome back, everybody. Happy Monday, and I hope you had a great 4th of July. And today we have Ann Ranson back. Welcome back, Ann. Yay!
Yay!
And Elizabeth's going to share a little bit about Ann. She's been on before, but go ahead and share a little information, Elizabeth.
Take it away, Elizabeth.
Since I haven't looked anything up, let me do that.
Okay.
We're so prepared.
Some time. Ann's taken some of my classes, actually. I've actually worked for Ann at the bathhouse.
That means several things. You need to clarify which bathhouse, because
I know. So just don't go there. It's always good. It's a good thing.
Just clarify.
Ann is one of the most inventive creatives I've ever known. She's always doing something. I don't know. I don't think she's ever bored. No. But Ann's always looking for something that's positive, and she gets moved very easily. She's very empathetic with the world. She's one of my go-to people when I have an issue or a problem, or if I need someone outside the system that, I can trust. She's one of those individuals. But today I want her, if she would, to talk about the way she created her tea by the grace of tea. And the reason I got just jumped all over it is because there were a couple of blends that she created and came over, and we used it on our psychic gatherings, which was just awesome because it was psychic tea. It was just awesome. So Ann, talk to us about the psychic tea or by the grace of tea. How did all that get started with you?
Well, first of all, thank you, Elizabeth, for that very kind introduction. And I love you as much as you profess to love me. So it's a mutual admiration society. We love that.
Wait, Ann, would you date Elizabeth? Would you date her?
I date her. Well, I didn't really swing that way, but I love her in other ways. Okay?
5 minutes into the show, and I've done my job. Thank you very much.
Oh, Jesus.
Elizabeth is ready to be. Okay, so let's move right along. So
Thank you. Please do.
Yes, this is the year 2010. So about 10 years ago.
This is 2020, Ann.
What did I say?
2010.
2010.
Oh, well, that's when I started.
I told you it was LSD. LSD is the tea that they took.
Oh my God. Okay. So back in 20.
Okay, so it's 2010, it's 2020, and
so 10 years ago in the year 2010, I still do sometimes, that show CBS Sunday Morning. And at that time it was with Charles Osgood. And he had a woman on that day who was an expert in afternoon tea. And she was just talking about what a gracious and civil activity it is. Now, this was 10 years ago, but we needed civility back then too. And the thing that struck me is she said, surely we can put our devices down for an hour and sit across from somebody and have a real connected conversation. And I just thought that was really interesting. Well, a few weeks after that, I was invited to attend the satellite broadcast of the first TED Women's Conference. It was out of San Francisco. And there was a woman who gave a talk. Her name is Elizabeth Lesser. She's the co-founder of the Omega Institute, if you're familiar with that. It's a couple of hours north of New York City. And I had been to Omega several times, had even interviewed Elizabeth. Anyway, so she gave a talk, and it was called Take and Other to lunch. And she said she wanted to start this movement that we should invite somebody to lunch that is the polar opposite of us. So if you're Democrat, they're Republican, or if you're whatever, just somebody that's completely different from you. And the idea is to go to lunch, get to know each other, and not for me to convince you about how right I am or vice versa, but actually to learn that, you know what, even though you're so different from me, you're a good person. And so it helps us to stop demonizing people just because they have different views than we do. Well, as Elizabeth alluded to, I get these quirky ideas. And I thought, well, what if we did that over tea? And I thought, well, I wonder if you can make your own blends. Now, I mean, I drank an occasional cup of tea, but I was not some fanatical tea drinker or anything. But anyway, this is the way my brain works. And so I started doing some research, and I wanted to have all of, well, of course, I didn't know there were going to be all, but I wanted the blend to be named for a value. So my first tea was possibility. And all the values end in the TY sound. So possibility, and then now I have civility, clarity, prosperity, community, authenticity, integrity. Well, I've got 15, whatever all those others are. And so I just started trying things, and one thing led to another, and I decided to make it a small business. And a friend of mine, who's a graphic designer, she actually kind of helped me come up with the name. And she's not even, she would say she's not a spiritual person at all, but somehow just through our conversation back and forth, out of her mouth comes by the grace of tea. And I was like, oh, yes, yes, yes. So for a couple of reasons. For one, my name, Anne, in Latin means grace. So there was that kind of hidden meaning in there, as well as, of course, just the idea of grace. And so she created the logo, which is that kind of a junk boat.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah.
Because I wanted it to have a nod to the Asian influence. I won't go into the whole long story about the history of tea, but if you want a good read that is nonfiction, but it reads like a mystery novel, it's called For All the Tea in China. Mm-hmm. The subtitle is like the greatest story of corporate espionage in the history of the world. Because basically the very, very short version is that in England, now I'm getting way too deep. Anyways, England ended up sending a botanist to China to study what they were doing. And he dressed up as a Chinaman in its most stereotypical form of those days. This was in the, I think, mid-1800s. And anyway, stole all the trade secrets, packed seeds, packed plants, et cetera, which then ended up going to England. And of course, as most people know, the British are quite fanatical about tea. Anyway, so I decided to start this tea, and I no longer do all the blends myself because I learned that I'm not a food chemist. And I would come up with an idea that on paper sounded really, really good. And then I would taste it, and it would taste like, well, not something that people would want to buy. And so most of my teas are organic. They're all loose leaf. So let's talk about loose leaf tea versus tea bags. Loose leaf tea. What?
It's exhausting for her. I mean, this is so exhausting for her because it's so intense.
Yeah. So
It's like all of a sudden, it's like, okay, that door's closed now. Okay, I'm going to open this one.
yes. So loose leaf tea is is what you want to drink. And there's a few reasons why. One is that it is higher quality and therefore you get a much better flavor. What goes into most tea bags, is what is called dust. And it is all the broken tea leaves that turn into a powder that fall to the bottom of these barrels of tea. So you don't get, most of the time in tea bags, you don't get the full leaves. Well, let's see if I've got one here that I could even, I don't know if you can see. Like you can see the leaves, there's a raspberry in that, there's a couple of raspberries in there, but you can see there's actual leaves. And so between the fact that you're getting the leaves and plus when you put your tea into a tea ball, which is how you need to make it. Now, some people like these spoon doodads. I hate this thing. Well, I'm sorry, I should not be so negative, but I don't like these things. But some people do.
Round one.
And if you like them, great.
I like that round ball thing.
Yeah.
But I have a question.
That's what,
I have a question. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
In a lot of the older movies, they will actually show them putting the loose leaves in the teapot, then pouring the water in, and then when they pour the tea into the cup, they pour it through a strainer. Now, why?
Why, I don't know. I know that is still the way most of the time the British do. They don't use tea balls.
Yes.
They use those strainers. And I'm not sure why. And you brought up a good question, Deborah, and I don't really know the answer to that, why it evolved beyond that in some places and not in others. I will tell you that for most Americans, at least, people who come, because for the past, I guess, 8 years, I've done a lot of booths at like the Jesuit Art Bazaar or Lover's Lane Methodist has a big holiday bazaar. And so I used to do a lot of those. And I don't know if you can tell, but the mesh, well, you probably can't tell, is very, very fine because Americans do not like any of the leaves falling through. And I have a particular blend called Sweetie, which is one of my favorites, that is very, very fine. And even these finely meshed balls, sometimes some of it falls through. It doesn't bother me, but some people it does. And I think I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, as far as just pouring it through the strainer. So that's my incomplete answer for why we use tea balls.
We're just very neat people. Very neat.
Yes. So that's one thing I'd like to say is use loose leaf tea whenever you can because you will get more. Oh, the other reason you get more flavor is because if you put a tablespoon or a teaspoon of tea in one of these balls, the water has a chance to flow through those tea leaves and extract more flavor. Whereas if they're in some little bitty tea bag that's been smushed in a box for 5 years, it's not going to have that ability. Of course, I do think back to my childhood, and I guess Lipton tea was the only thing there was. I don't know. It's the only thing I ever really remember. And I remember suddenly the TV commercials came on with these flow through tea bags.
Tea bags.
Anybody remember that?
Yes, they were doubled over.
Yeah, and they had you could literally go through the middle. It was that section like.
Yes. And I'm guessing that was why, because they realized if they could get more water flowing through the tea bag, it was going to give more flavor. Another one of the things that a lot of people don't know, and I certainly did not know when I started this, is that all tea, whether it's white, green, black, oolong, pu'er, whatever kind of tea, it all comes from exactly the same plant.
What?
And I didn't know that. I thought there was green tea and there was white tea and then there was black. It's all in the processing.
Wow.
Yeah. So see, I thought that was very interesting too. So what happens is that, well, there's two things that happen. White tea which is the lightest in color and the lightest in flavor. It has the least caffeine. You know, when a plant is growing, that very top tiny new little leaves it puts out, I think I recall from my horticulture class, and why I remember this, God only knows, it's called the apical meristem. Where these words come from, I have no idea.
Jeez. Okay,
There
now we
will
know
be
why
a
she's
test.
on TED, why she does TED Talks.
I hope you're
So
taking
she
notes.
remembers this stuff.
I hope you're taking notes. There will be a test.
Seriously.
There will be a test.
Absolutely. There will be a test. And so
Okay.
those new little baby leaves tend to be what goes into white tea. And white tea is not processed at all. They're literally laid out on big giant screens. They're allowed to dry for an hour or two. That is it. Then green tea has a little more processing. So some of the green teas are actually roasted just lightly, very quickly. They will have a little more caffeine, a little more flavor. Then black teas are actually allowed to, I believe they call it fermentation, but not like beer, but they're actually allowed to cook for a little bit longer. So they have the most caffeine. They tend to have the strongest flavor. And then there's some specialty teas, oolong and pu'er, that kind of fall in that black range.
All right, I got another question.
Okay.
I'm really fascinated by this. So if it all comes from the same plant and it's all the same stuff, why would you want to drink the white tea or the green tea? Because how can it have more medicinal powers than the black tea?
Well, there's a lot of conversation about that. So I went to a lecture, 5, 6, 7 years ago at the Crow Museum. And it was a woman, she said at the time she was the only one in the world who was both an MD and a tea master.
Oh, wow.
And so, of course, I was fascinated. It was like, because there's the big thing in the U.S. these days is green tea because of all the antioxidants. This is what we hear.
Of course.
And so I asked her whether that was scientific or if that's just anecdotal. Well, MDs, they don't believe anything that doesn't have 17 studies behind it.
Right.
And so, because I said, doesn't it stand, most of the tests are done on black tea. So doesn't it stand to reason that you could extrapolate from that if black tea does this, then green tea would do that? She would not commit to that because there's not studies to that effect. It has something to do with the processing that releases more caffeine was the best explanation that I got. As far as, now, the antioxidants, my non-scientific opinion, just based on research and stuff, all teas have antioxidants because they're all coming from the plant that is called Camellia sinensis. We'll be tested on that as well. Camellia sinensis.
Write it down.
Write it down.
I'm writing, taking notes.
Okay, that's good.
Sound it out if you can't spell it. Sound it out.
Phonics. Hey, I learned phonics. You get an English lesson right along with it.
Yeah, I just butchered those words so bad.
Well,
Elizabeth can't rhyme.
okay.
I can't.
Okay, so we talked about the different kind of teas. Okay, so next thing, very important, the temperature of the water you use and how long you steep it for.
It has to boil, right?
yes.
It has to be boiling, right? Is that right? That's what the British say.
Wrong.
It'll burn the leaves, right?
Don't you boil the water,
Burn the leaves.
burner, let it settle down, and then put the tea in?
Kind of what everybody said, except for what Deborah said. No. Okay. That's why I have these little bookmarks that says what kind of tea, how much, what temperature, and how many minutes.
Like I'm going to get my thermometer out to make tea. Are you kidding me? I'm just going to stick it in the microwave. How long do you put it in the microwave?
Well, first of all, let's back up. Let's talk about how to make a perfect cup of tea.
Oh my
First of all,
God.
you want, it can be tap water or whatever, but you want good fresh water. Do not ever put it in the microwave.
Oh gosh, Sam screwed.
Boil it. And, when I first started doing this, I'd had a couple of friends for years that always talked about, don't use a microwave, it does. And of course, I didn't pay any attention to them. So when I started doing this and someone suggested not to microwave the water, which is what I had always done, I decided to do a taste test. And I was shocked that there was a noticeable difference in the flavor between microwave water and boiled water. So I had just an electric tea kettle for years. The one I have now, my old one finally wore out, has a temperature gauge. But before I had a temperature gauge, okay, so here's the rule of thumb. White is the most fragile, takes the coolest water, and only steeps for 1 to 2 minutes.
Okay.
Green tea, has anybody ever tried green tea and didn't like it because it tasted bitter?
No, it tastes like grass. I don't like it because it tastes like grass.
Doesn't it taste bitter because you steeped it too long?
Exactly. Man, Betty, you are like really on top of this tea conversation today.
Iced tea.
Yeah, so it is in the steep time. So in a green tea, it's a little bit hotter. It is still not boiling, and you steep it for 2 minutes. If you steep it for 3 or 4, you forget and you go run errands or, you go do something, it's going to taste bitter. Chances are very good. And then black tea is when you'll let it come to a boil and then rest it for just a moment, and then you can put it over your black tea. And then how long you steep it for: white tea 1 to 2, green 2, black 4 to 5. So because I'm a goofy numbers crazy woman, I'm always reducing everything down to numerology. So my black tea, every morning I drink a blend called Zesty, which is a black tea with a whole lot of cinnamon. And I steep it for 4 minutes and 43 seconds because then, of course, that's 11, which is a master number. And I always try to get to a master number. Okay, so that shows you just how crazy I am.
Well, thank you for confirming that. We had our doubts. Yes, but now we know.
That's your madness.
Welcome to the group.
Okay, Zesty 11. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so we've talked about the kinds of tea, how long to steep them for, what kind of water. Don't microwave the water. Oh, okay. So how are we on time? I don't have my clock handy.
We're good.
Okay. So I just wanted to mention real quick, people will say to me often at my booths that now most of them are in the holidays, so it's wintertime, and so people are into tea. But when I used to do a lot of spring markets, people would say, oh, well, I don't drink tea in the spring and summer. I'd be like, really?
What?
Because
In
most
Texas?
people I know in Texas grew up drinking sweet tea.
Yeah, but it's iced tea, not hot tea.
Well, and see, that is the difference. So people think, so my teas are all gourmet. They're not inexpensive. They're not terribly expensive, but I mean, you can certainly get Lipton a lot cheaper than what you can buy my teas. And
or Louisiana, it doesn't go dark. It's not cloudy.
Oh, Louisiana tea. Oh my goodness gracious, boy, that will set me back. Woo. It's like their coffee. Woo.
Yeah, definitely. So
Okay.
to teach people, or it's not teach, it's just remind people that you can have the flavor of delicious gourmet tea 12 months out of the year. All you do is start it out hot and turn it into cold. And so I drink all of my teas, both hot and cold, just depends on what mood I'm in. So all you do is you start out making the tea much stronger if you're in a hurry. If you're going to want to have tea in the next, 20 to 30 minutes, you need it to cool down rapidly. The quickest way to do that is drop a couple of ice cubes. Well, if you don't make your tea double strength, then when you put the couple of ice cubes in there, you've diluted it so much that it doesn't have any flavor left. And so you just make a double strong cup of tea, drop a couple of ice cubes in it, and you're set to go. So as I say, I drink all my teas year round, hot, cold, whatever, and the flavor is always good. It doesn't matter, just whatever your preference is.
Wow. All I can say is
That is
wow.
amazing.
I haven't made tea properly ever in my life, ever.
Well, see, don't you feel
I
so
don't have-
enlightened now,
I
Deborah?
do.
I do.
I feel so inadequate now.
So my brain's just going to go. So enlightened.
You know, I would say if you're going to cool that tea down, though, you just pour some simple syrup in there that's already chilled, and that'll take care of it right then.
You know, speaking of simple syrup, I love cinnamon, and I don't normally drink coffee, but that has become like to go to Starbucks during this time of sheltering in place, to go to Starbucks and drive through and get one of their gooped up drinks is just like so such a big deal, you know, during these very simple times.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, you know,
Yeah.
I'm going to try to make some cinnamon simple syrup. And then I bought some coffee and some almond milk creamer or something. I can't say I'm certainly not to the Starbucks quality yet, let us say. But, you know, making these flavored simple syrups, you can really make some interesting flavors.
You know what the easiest way to do simple syrup with cinnamon flavor is melt Red Hots in it.
Oh, but then
I've heard that. I've heard using Red Hots.
I make a Christmas
Yeah.
punch that way, and people don't know that I do that because I throw a cinnamon stick in there, so they think, oh, it's real cinnamon.
Yeah.
You know,
great
and
idea.
I've heard that. I have heard that.
yeah, I used to work at Starbucks. And, you know, prior to working at Starbucks, I very seldom got a hot tea. I usually, like, they have a medicine ball. For those who have allergies, those are the best if you've ever had one. But anytime I've ever gone to get a hot tea, nobody's ever said, take the tea bags out of your cup within 5 to 6 minutes or 7 or 8 minutes. And when I started working Starbucks, you know, I started learning that. And when somebody ordered a hot tea, I would say, here's your hot tea, let it steep 5 to 6 minutes and remove the tea bag so it doesn't get bitter. And that's not a standard, and it should be, because it gives them a bad rap when you get a hot coffee and in it, you let it sit for 10 minutes and start drinking it, it's going to be bitter.
They should do that with their coffee too. I know we were counting on Starbucks as a sponsor, but their coffee.
I love their coffee. I love their coffee.
Oh, it tastes like cigarette ashes. Ooh.
Well, it depends on which one you get. They've got several flavors, but the tea bags was something I learned. And so I don't make too much teas at home, but when I do take the tea bags out. And it does make a difference also if you don't steep it long enough, because I have bought tea, the leaves for the ball, and put it in there thinking, okay, I don't want it that strong, so take it out, and then not be the right flavor. And the next time, steep it another minute or two longer, and it just makes it the perfect. So you've really got to know how long to leave it in to get that right taste without it getting bitter.
We have a tip from Lori Dees. She said,
Hi, Lori.
Hi, Lori. Put
Hi, Lori.
in the bottom of the cup before brewing in a Keurig. And she says, I think the coffee is too strong at Starbucks. I like the hot green tea latte. But she loves herbal teas with honey.
I do too. I love all kinds of teas, but I don't use honey unless I'm sick.
You know, what she just said reminded me, we haven't talked about matcha. Have y'all heard of
Ooh,
matcha?
I love it.
Okay, so I didn't bring, I don't know that I have any that I could show, but it is a very fine, very green, like this green powder. And it is a specially cultivated variety of, what's the word?
Tea.
Camilla sinensis.
Camilla Kinesis, yes.
I like tea better.
It was on the tip of your tongue, Elizabeth. I could tell.
I just don't know how to pronounce it.
Tea.
Camilla
You pronounce
sinensis.
it tea.
And it is in the same family as the beautiful camellia family flowers. But anyway, so they take just the leaves, and of course they grind it into this very fine powder. So people constantly ask me, why is this so hot and hyped around the antioxidants? And the reason is that when you drink a cup of green tea, you put the leaves in the bowl, you steep it for 2 minutes, you pull the green leaves out, right? Well, when you use matcha, you are ingesting the whole of the green tea leaf. And so you're getting all of those antioxidants. And that's why it's so much healthier for you than just a brewed or steeped, rather, green tea. Now, I don't necessarily make the tea as a tea. I use it like I'll put, and a quarter of a teaspoon, by the way, is the measure if you're making a cup of matcha. So you put a quarter of a teaspoon in a bowl. Anyway, you put it in a bowl, you add your hot water, and then you use a whisk to dissolve the powder. And it'll get a little frothy. It is the tea that's used in the traditional Japanese tea ceremony, so there's a lot of ritual around it as well. But I put it in my smoothies. I put it in baked goods. I've used it in Scottish shortbread, in truffles, just to die for, chocolate truffles with a little bit steeped in with the milk. You put it in there and then sprinkle a little bit of the green powder on the top so it just really looks beautiful. So that's another way to get the benefits, the health benefits of tea is through matcha. And even if you don't drink it, you can put it in other things.
You know what? We should have had you in the kitchen doing this and showing us how to do some of this stuff like Julia.
Oh,
And
that's a good
next you
idea.
take the chicken
Really?
and spread its
A
legs.
tutorial. We need to have you do that on a night version and do as a tutorial.
Yeah.
On Zoom. On Zoom.
Yeah.
I would do that.
Show us exactly what your steps are.
Okay.
So here's the thing. You know, everybody always has honey in their tea. I like milk or cream and sugar. What do you think about that? Does that ruin any of the medicinal sides of it?
No, I think it's just personal preference. I don't put anything in my tea. And growing up, I don't recall ever ordering sweet tea, but that's the way, I put 3 teaspoons of sugar in every glass of tea growing up. So trust me, it was definitely sweet tea, but I don't recall restaurants pre-making sweet tea. I think that's more of
Oh, man.
I grew up in Arkansas. Yeah, they did. That was the only time there was. Yeah. Well, when we moved to Dallas and they brought tea out and they didn't have any sweetening, I was like, what in the hell? Someone forgot to make the tea right.
I will never forget. I was in my 40s or 50s and we had gone back home for a visit to Birmingham. And the lady said, what would you like to drink? And I said, I'd like some tea. And so she brings the glass out. I put a sweet and low in it too. I took a swig of that and it was like, oh my God, what have I done? I'd forgotten the tea's already sweetened.
Yeah.
Don't add anything to it. And you have to specify it, non-sweetened or sweet.
Yeah.
This is what I love when you go to
Ours
a
is always
restaurant
sweet.
and you go, do you have sweet tea? And they go, no, we have tea and we have sweetener there. And I'm like, honey, that is not sweet tea. Don't insult me. You know, just don't insult me. Just say, no, we don't have it.
Ours was always sweetened. Always. It was always pre-made.
Okay. Well, I don't know what happened to my taste buds because I loved it as sweet as I could get it growing up. But now Zesty, which is one of my teas, that's the cinnamon one that I drink. You know, if you use cinnamon a lot, you know, a lot of cinnamon to me is very sweet tasting. It's got that hot, sweet.
Yeah.
And so to me, this tea tastes
Yeah.
very sweet without even adding any sugar. So, Deborah, I think it's just personal preference. I mean, the Brits, some of them will add lemon. Now, they drink an English breakfast tea, or PG Tips is probably the most popular tea in England. And so, some of them will put lemon in there. Some of them will put cream, sugar. I'm sorry, that's my phone going off.
Okay, I thought I was hearing things. Thank you.
So there's
That's somebody calling, talking to you about sweet tea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love breakfast teas. I love Earl Grey and all the different breakfast teas. They're wonderful. I love them, love them, love them. So I have an idea for a new tea for you.
What's that?
Well, we're all getting up in age. So, libidos could use a little lift, So something that lifts that libido, and we could call it sex tea.
Well, I did have someone suggest I should do sexuality.
Well, that might be totally different. That might be for when you want to date Elizabeth and you need to open up those doors.
Stop that. Stop it. That would be reality. Reality.
Yes.
Help me, mother. Help me.
And then that tea that's laced with LSD could be university because you're in the universe.
Expand.
So it's.
Well, I think we should have you do a night version of this and show exactly what it is that you do to make proper tea.
Because we obviously don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, so you know what? On TV shows, they will put the tea bag in the tea, and then you'll see them sit there and drink the tea the whole time with the tea bag still in there. So that's not right either, is it?
No, and that's what I used to do too.
Well, dead gum.
I only drank herbal teas, and herbal teas you can steep for 6 or 7 or 8 minutes. And by the way, herbal teas are technically not tea. Got into, not an argument, but like the state of Texas requires me to put the word tea on my herbal beverages, even though there is no tea in the drink.
Why is that?
Because most people think that herbal beverages are tea. So so it goes based on the ignorance of the population.
So you're perpetuating the ignorance by keeping on calling it tea instead of educating the public. Yeah. You idiots, don't call it tea. It's not tea.
So what is the proper definition of tea?
Because tea, Elizabeth, is what?
Tea.
Camilla sinensis.
Exactly. And there is no Camilla sinensis in an herbal beverage.
It sounds like a disease.
It's a tea.
It sounds like a fungal disease.
Camilla sinensis.
They have medicine for that. You can rub it on and it kills the yeast. I mean,
something like that. So the other thing is that drinking out of nice teacups.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yes.
Elevates the experience.
Yes.
This is the same tea I was drinking out of this 30 minutes ago. But there is something about when it's in a proper teacup and saucer that it's just, I want to put my little pinky up in the air and go, ooh.
But how do you know how much tea to put in that? Because that holds only about half the much water as the mug did. So how do you know the tea to water ratio?
So it's per 8 ounces. So this is about 10 or 12 ounces. So I put like a heaping tablespoon.
Got it.
And it would make about 2 of these because this is probably like 6 ounces. But if you use those big giant mugs that I have some of, and y'all probably do too, that's probably 16, that's 16, 20 ounces or something. So you just have to put a lot more tea in there. But Gail, you said something I wanted to come back to, and that is about taking actually, Deborah, you said the same thing. It's about taking the tea ball out. When the 2 minutes is up, you take the tea ball out of your cup. You don't leave it in there. Because particularly on whites and greens and things, the reason you use a cooler water on white is because this is a white tea. Let me see if y'all can see this.
Well, it's more fragile and it's smaller, right?
It's not smaller necessarily, but it's definitely more fragile. And if you put boiling hot water, it just kills it.
You can hear it screaming when you pour that water on there if it's too hot.
I mean, can y'all see? That's what white tea looks like. It's
Wow.
And that doesn't look anything like the tea bags we get from Lipton. Not a daggum likeness.
No.
That does not look like the tea. Mm-mm. Wow.
So on your teas, you instruct everybody by each tea that you have, the different ways of doing brewing them and steeping them, so that they don't make it bitter, or they make it so they can make it strong enough to taste it and get the effects. Because if you don't steep it long enough, you're not going to get all of the benefits of that tea from that.
Right.
All right. So, Ann, tell them how they can order tea from you, and if they don't see you in person, how do they get your teas?
I have a website called bythegraceoftea.com. By the Grace of Tea.
I love that name. I have to tell you, that is an awesome name.
Isn't it fabulous? Thank you. And there's a place, if you want to get on my mailing list, you can get a free How to Host a Tea Party booklet.
Awesome. I want to do a tea party.
Some recipes and some suggestions, like, what do you serve at a tea party? Because you want to have a little bit of savory, a little bit of sweet.
Finger sandwiches.
You gotta have some tea sandwiches. On there, this is my most popular gift set. This is called 12 Days of Tea.
Oh, that's
wow.
Cool.
It's one serving of 12 different teas, and you just screw the lid off and pour it in your tea ball. It comes with a tea ball, and it's called 12 Days of Tea.
That's cool.
And at Christmas time, this is a huge, any time, but particularly at Christmas when people are in a gift-giving mood.
So it's different flavors, you said?
Uh-huh.
So when we can meet in person, we're going to have you be a co-hostess with us, and we'll do a tea party at our first physical meeting. And we will do finger sandwiches and scones and biscuits. They call them biscuits in England, but they're cookies.
Biscuits.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Some shortbread cookies. Recipe with shortbread.
I love shortbread.
Shortbread cookies.
Curd.
Ooh, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I am so ready for this virus to be over. I want shortbread cookies and tea, damn it. I mean it.
I'll think positive thoughts. If that stuff's gone, I'm done with this COVID crap.
Y'all quit screwing around. Think some positive thoughts and get rid of this crap.
Yeah, we're done. We are all done with this.
Well, and then you add every kind of retrograde backwards. Now we got Chiron coming this weekend and all kinds of good stuff.
So different.
What the hell is Chiron?
Well, Mercury will be out, on the 12th, I think. Mercury retro will be out on the 12th. So we're getting closer. It's getting better, get closer.
Yeah.
It should happen actually Sunday. Yeah. Sunday.
Be there.
And Elizabeth, I printed some Chiron stuff along with our 7th chakra that I can either send to you or I can share on Saturday.
Yeah, you can. Either way is fine. Yeah, both, actually. Both.
Send it to her tomorrow and we'll talk about it tomorrow on Tipsy Tuesday Techno, whatever it is.
Oh, Lord.
Well,
Go ahead, send it to me, Ed, and I'll be prepared for tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, that's this weekend. That's right. That's coming up.
You know why?
That's right.
Do you know why I like having you on our show, Ann?
Why?
Because you're so
afraid.
No, because you're so patient with us. You remind me of my school teacher in 6th grade, Mrs. Toll, because I was always wound up in class, and she would just look at me and roll her eyes. She goes, "That's right, Deborah," and she just keep on teaching. You remind me of her.
Well, I hope that's a good thing.
Oh, it is. She was a lovely person.
That would be a good thing.
She was a lovely person. Yes, I loved her dearly. So, absolutely.
Thank you, Anne, for all the info. This has been a great show. I knew this would be a great show.
Thank
I
you
love your
very
story
much
about tea.
for inviting me. And I'll send you some info, Elizabeth, and then if y'all want to talk about it. So that's about all I know to say right now.
Well, we thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Anne.
Think
Thank
about
you so much.
what
Thank
you want to do
thank
next
you.
time, and we'll see you again real soon.
Am I going to come back on the first Monday of August?
Oh, of course you are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
I guess I better
Yes.
figure out something to talk about, huh?
If you don't come back, I will hunt you down. Don't make me hunt you down.
Please don't.
Okay, girls, y'all have a great day.
Okay, you too. Thank you, Anne.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm doing it. Oh, wait,
So
wait.
one of the reasons I
The recording has stopped.
All right, now.
having her, one of the reasons I always like having her coming to our things is because she brings this carafe that's about this big. It's huge, and it's full of pre-made tea.
And you can put
And
vodka in tea.
everybody,
You can put vodka in
it's
tea.
already made.
Tea is
Oh,
so
so
versatile. You can put sugar in it. You can put honey. You can put lemon. You can put milk. You can put vodka. It's very versatile. You can put Kahlua.
Yeah, I have like a bit like a tea station or a coffee station, and everybody comes in. They make. I've got some really nice teacups, like from my mom. That blue and white pattern with the saucer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've got
I've
those.
got some really nice, and we use those. I have spoons that have quartz tip on the end.
You know what I would love to see done
really-
is she made mention of the Japanese ritual with tea, and I remember seeing something about
Yes.
that where they put the tea in their tea bowl and they turn it around a quarter, and then they do something else, and they keep turning the tea bowl around until it makes a full circle. So everything about the tea and the way it's stirred and turning the bowl, everything means something. I would love to know more about that ritual because it's just beautiful to watch. It really is.
It is, and it's very therapeutic.
To watch it or to drink it?
It's,
Both.
It's very therapeutic
I like my coffee.
if you put vodka in it. It's very
Yeah.
therapeutic. I'll test.
Lord, okay, for tomorrow.
Lord.
Tomorrow.
Have you ever heard her pray so much in your life? Seriously. And then when she's on the
Never.
show. Oh Lord.
No, I say that. I think that's something I say. Well, that's not everything I say, but
I think you're turning into a
that's
Pentecostal. I do.
the cleanest thing I think I probably say because I usually say something else.
I really think you're turning into a Pentecostal in this show. There's hope for you.
I think that Baptist in me would just fight you on that.
Yeah, me too. Oh my God. Half my family's Baptist and half was Pentecostal when I was a kid. Oh my God. Talk about confused. Very confused.
Well, if I had my choice, I would probably be more Methodist, but I like the rituals of the Catholic Church. I like the rituals of it. I like that history of it. I like that.
Catholic rituals are beautiful.
Religion is just religion. It's just something you've got to decide on.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do?
I'm not a big person on rituals, but they're beautiful to watch.
Speaking of rituals,
Right.
Betty's made a couple of beautiful prayer beads, haven't you, Betty?
Oh, let's see. Have you got them?
Nope.
Thanks for being prepared, Betty.
Bring them on tomorrow.
I have two sets I keep on my desk. These right here.
She's got the long tassel.
Yeah, the mala. But
Yeah.
I made a small tassel on it.
Yeah, but you know what happens with this? Every time I wear it, it gets hung on something, and like I have like 5 sets of these, and the tassel always gets tore up because I'm always catching it on things. So I
That's
like
why they
this
got
one.
the small ones.
Yeah, this one doesn't have the tassel, so I like that, but it's still got a pattern, and it's goldstone, so it's a really good thing. I do my gratitude on it, and I have yet to get it all the way around. So my goal is to get all the way around the necklace with gratitude every day, and I get about halfway, and then I'm done.
So, Betty, tell us what the numbers mean? The bead, how many beads, and the number you were talking about the other day?
Well, there's 108 beads to the mala. And you can have marker beads, and depending on how I've researched, and what I found, there's 4 different styles that you can make. And the one I made has a marker bead. Every 27th bead, you put a marker bead.
Why 27?
Because that's 108 divided by 4.
Okay. All right.
A simple
Thank
answer.
you.
I like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
You'll have to bring them on tomorrow, show them.
And then you do a knot every time you put a bead. You knot it, and for what they say is that when you're knotting it, you're unknotting yourself.
Really?
And you're knotting it while you're unknotting yourself.
Right. When you're knotting, you're actually unknotting yourself, and that when you knot it, you can say a mantra, and you can either write your own, or there's also lots of mantras out there that you can select that have already been written. And the one I did for my husband, and he chose the beads, and he chose the color of the cord, and he chose the mantra he wanted me to use when I made it. And I did, and I finished it yesterday.
How
Was it
cool.
yesterday? Yes.
Wow.
I gave a picture of it yesterday, so.
I love personal things like that. To me, the power comes in the personal energy that you put in it, regardless of what it is.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I made it to his specifications, and he's happy with it, and he's wearing it.
I don't think you can really get the colors in this photo.
It looks
No.
silver. Yeah.
It just looks black and white.
It's got gold and blues, but tomorrow you can.
Let me see if I can go grab him.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful one. But I like the short tassels on that because it doesn't take away from the rest of the beads. To me, it just the short tassel looks better on it. Like you said, Deborah, it always gets caught on something.
I wonder what the comparison is between a standard prayer bead necklace is compared to a Catholic crucifix. Because, they have certain bead numbers on their crucifixes, and each one stands for something. I wonder how those two compare.
I don't know.
Interesting to look up and learn.
See, I don't do rituals, so I don't know that stuff. I used to before I got hit in the head the last time. I used to know all that stuff, but now I don't remember all the details. So,
Yeah. Well, more and more people are making them and using them than since I started doing this work years ago. The only ones I knew that did the malas was Eloyd and Arthur for the Green Man Studios. There it is.
That is beautiful.
that is pretty.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
I like that. That's pretty. See, I would wear that just for decoration. That's so gorgeous.
Wow. That is gorgeous.
Yeah.
What a great job.
Thank you. He chose for his marker beads.
Oh, is that tiger's eye?
Tiger eye.
And
Is that tiger eye?
Yes.
And lapis.
And the guru bead is also tiger eye. That's a guru bead. It's 2 pieces, and that's for you put. It's got like 2 holes on the top and 1 in the bottom
Right.
Yeah.
to bring it together. And then for the blue stones are Dumatera. What is it?
They look like lapis.
It's not. It's Dumonterite.
Yeah, I thought it was lapis too.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to make me one with lapis. I've already ordered the stones and carnelian for the
Ooh.
mark.
Yeah, that'd be beautiful.
Carnelian is really good. That's a pretty stone as well.
Very calming stone. Yeah.
So that's what it looks
You
like.
did an awesome
That is
job.
awesome.
Thank you.
I had one like that made out of obsidian. Guess what happened to it?
It broke.
It didn't broke. It exploded.
It exploded.
All right, so
Exploded.
what did you do with it? What did you do with it?
I couldn't find the beads.
No, but what did you do with what was left? You're not supposed to bury it because it's tied to your energy.
Oh, I just said what was left was about 40 beads, and it's in my jewelry box. So the rest of them just went to
Okay.
powder, or they disappeared. I mean, it literally exploded one day. I was in the middle of a prayer session,
Wow.
and it went, and
Wow.
I even got little pieces in my eye and stuff like that. I mean, it literally exploded. So
Wow.
that's why I don't wear obsidian anymore. So
Wow. Okay.
All righty.
Okay.
Well, I think that's it for the day, y'all. It's already almost been an hour.
yep, close us out.
All righty. Thank you for sharing your time and energy with us at the Spiritual Neighborhood Lunch Bunch. We are a community project of the Council of Families for Children. To contact any of the hosts, Deborah, Elizabeth, or myself, email us at spiritualneighborhood@gmail.com, and don't be shy to ask to be a guest on the show. Until we eat again, it is near lunchtime. It is be safe and be well.
And you'll never know what we're going to talk about tomorrow because we don't know.
tomorrow.
So just tune
Yep.
in.
Surprise, surprise.
Okay, we'll see what Ann sends. We'll see what Ann sends in.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Night.
Good night, Gracie.
Bye.
Good night, Gracie.